Hey everyone, I just finished working on my car and I decided to make a video about some gadgets I use around the garage. And these are just quality of life items that make things easier. Aren't 100% necessary for repairs, but they definitely make things easier. And this will be uh, tools or gadgets I use that are sort of about dealing with liquids. And I'll start with measurement devices. So this is just a cheapo measuring cup. I think this was less than $1 at Walmart. And an old sour cream container. I use this today for measuring antifreeze. I usually buy the concentrate instead of the pre-mixed, and I just mix it with distilled water because it's a lot less expensive for the volume you get. So just one cut. The volume is just arbitrary. It just has to be a 50-50 mix. So one container of coolant for every one container of water, and that's how I mix the ratios versus trying to eyeball it and pour it through a funnel. This is a really cool gadget. This is called a hydrometer, and what you do is you use the bulb to draw up some of your antifreeze out of your, I guess, out of your radiator, or you can check an old bottle if you'd like. And what it does is it determines what your, on one side there's the freezing point. So this I guess you can kind of see there. This needle will when you hold it vertically, this needle will rise up based on the density, and it'll tell you what your freezing point and what your boiling point are. So you can kind of tune this for where you live in the world and what the temperatures are that you see, so you can get the proper mixture of water and antifreeze. And I inherited this one. I don't know how expensive they are. I can't imagine it's too much. There are probably even electronic ones now, but definitely comes in handy, especially for. I used this a lot when I was doing a coolant flush, and so I was constantly changing out distilled water and coolant, and I wanted to make sure that my ratio was correct at the end of the flush. Here's another handy coolant tool, or for emptying reservoirs and things. Is just a simple turkey baster. This is a dollar store one, and it works really well. I even put a piece of Tygon tubing on the end here, or vinyl tubing, I guess. I think Tygon is a trademark of DuPont. But anyway, for emptying reservoirs, I used this earlier on my power steering fluid reservoir to change out some fluid, or removing a little bit from your radiator, a little bit of coolant, something like that. Just lots of uses for that. This is a large. This is a transfer pump. Sort of it uses a siphoning action. So you'd put this straight end in your whatever you want to remove liquid from, and then you pump it a few times, and then it draws it up into this tube, and then it just siphons from there. You don't have to keep pumping it. And this is good for, like, if you wanted to transfer, say, coolant from a drain pan into a bottle for disposal or something like that. It wouldn't really work for oil, just because oil is too thick. More for water and thinner liquids like coolant. But there are some more high quality ones you can get. It looks like almost like a little bulb from a turkey baster, and it has a tube coming out of one end and a tube coming out of the other end, and you can squeeze it that way. It's usually a smaller diameter of tubing. Those are a little bit more expensive. I think this was like $1, and those bulb ones I just described are usually a couple bucks. But if you're doing say transfer case oil or something like that, it's hard to pour a bottle under the car. You can pump it up with a little siphon like that. And the last thing is just loose tubing, which is always good to have for siphoning or removing or adding fluid. It usually it can snake into places and make things a lot easier. I like having a variety of diameters and types around. This clear stuff is just Tygon tubing or vinyl tubing. I use this for adding oil to my differential and transfer case because this is a cheaper option. Then I was able to route this into an area that I was able to pour the bottle, and that was cheaper than, this is like 10 cents a foot or 25 cents a foot depending on the thickness and diameter. And so I was able to route this to an area where I could pour the bottle. These other ones are more rubber hose, and I'm not sure of other auto parts stores, but the AutoZone close by to me has loose tubing that you can clip off by the foot, and there are lots of different types. This is a heater hose for whatever diameter this is. I've never used it for a heater core or anything like that. I used it on an air intake mod for my PCV return valve. And this is, I think, windshield washer hose. Just bought mostly for the diameter, less so for the for the qualities of it, like it being windshield washer fluid. Although they will behave differently with different fluids, and this is actual fuel line which we got for our snowblower, and this was a lot more expensive. These are like $1 or $2 a foot. This was like $4 a foot because it has to. It's more high quality for gasoline. I think that's a sham that it's that expensive. You can buy you could buy like a 3-foot pre-made section for a couple bucks. It was more expensive to buy it by the foot, which is kind of interesting. But I only needed a small amount, so I didn't want to go buy an entire spool of it. And I'll just keep this around, probably not for fuel lines, but just for siphoning or to make a like a custom tool with the turkey baster or something like that. If I need to route some liquid somewhere, it'll give me access. And the last thing is that I don't have because I threw it away is a box of cornstarch. And what we use that for is for spills, mainly for oil, because the cornstarch will draw up the oil much better than a rag will, and you also kind of ruin your rag when you soak it up. We keep rags for a long time, especially if you mop up coolant. You can just hang them up, let them dry. They might smell a little bit, but oil will really kind of make a rag useless. You don't want to. You'll just, if you go to wipe something, you'll just oil it up because the oil won't evaporate, obviously. So cornstarch is good to have around. Keep a box or two. I threw it away, our box away recently because we have you don't want it to go bad over time. I don't know what the shelf life of cornstarch is, but we've had it for a few years and didn't use it, so it's time to refresh. It's not very expensive, so it's good to keep a box or two of that around for oil spills, and it really draws up the oil off of a concrete floor. And you can just vacuum it up or sweep it up and finish up, maybe with some brake clean or something like that if you have an oil spot. So anyway, that's about all the tips I have for now, little gadgets and how I use them for dealing with liquids when working in the garage or working on your car. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.